We are up to chapter 9, and I just want to go over some of the things that we mentioned. Chapter 8, I must say each of these chapters are really packed with information and insights into the life of David and his righteousness. And so just to go over some of the things that we learned in chapter 8, let's just look through some of the main points. So David had been told that he's not going to be able to build the Beis Hamikdash. And what he seems to realize is that obviously the Beis Hamikdash is meant to be built when there's peace. And if Hashem is saying that you're not meant to build the Beis Hamikdash, David understands, well, I guess that means that there's more wars. At least one way of understanding it is that maybe it's meant for me to that what I'm calling peace is not exactly peace. Maybe this is not really considered peaceful yet, because there's still potential for wars. Maybe we have to subdue the enemies much more in order to make this considered ready for the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So David has a number of wars in this chapter, chapter 8. And Aram, and Edom, and Moav, and so on. And so the first thing that the chapter begins with is David struck the Plishtim and subdued them. He also struck Moav, and he killed 2/3 of the Moabites. Let me mute everyone here. David struck Hadadezer, who was the king of Soiva, and it talks about how much he captured all these horsemen and foot soldiers, and what he did with the horses. And Aram of Damascus, the Aram Damesek, was the next enemy that started, because they tried to assist Hadadezer, the king of Tzova. So David struck from them 22,000 men, and David, it says, appointed the authorities in Aram Damesek, and Aram was servants of David. They had to pay taxes and so on. David took all of these items and he brought them to Yerushalayim, and he also brought all this copper from the Hadadezer, and he was basically giving this all towards the Beis Hamikdash. So he's taking anything that he can get to prepare, even though he's not building the Beis Hamikdash, but he's getting it ready. He's preparing. He's donating it all, and even the gifts that he's given, like in verse 9 and 10, where Toy was so happy that David had struck down his enemy, so he sent his son Yoram to give him a present, and he had silver vessels and gold vessels, copper vessels. And it says in verse 11, what does David do? He consecrated them to Hashem, and so he's donating everything, preparing everything for the Beis Hamikdash. Now, here it doesn't mention it, but again, there's the other book of the Tanakh that goes hand in hand with the book of Shmuel Beis, with all these stories from Shmuel Beis. It's the book of Divrei Hayamim, and there it mentions also about organizing the Leviim and the Kohanim into different groups for the Beis Hamikdash, and as well as a plan for the construction, drawing up plans for the construction. So all of this is mentioned in more detail over there in the book of Divrei Hayamim Aleph, the first Divrei Hayamim. Now, he gets these gifts from Toy, and these were personal gifts, and yet he's donating it to the Beis Hamikdash. Now,
Rebbe, the last pasuk in the parasha, the last words, what does it mean that the children of David were Kohanim?
Yeah. Well, we translated it last time. That doesn't mean Kohanim. Obviously, it means that they were like important ministers. They had some position of power. They served. So the yeah, okay, sorry about that. So we continue in this review of chapter 8. The next thing that it talks about is that the items that David got from Aram, Moav, Ammon, Plishtim, Amalek, and the spoils of Hadadezer. All of these he consecrated. And of course, and we mentioned that what he got from Amalek was from way back. In other words, he had it all the way from before he was king, even, because he had that war with Amalek before, while he was still running away from Shaul. So all of these things were consecrated for the Beis Hamikdash. And then it says, Vayas David Shem. David made a name for himself. Rashi over here learns that he buried the dead, and he made a good name for himself. Now, it's interesting because this the Zohar mentions Vayas David Shem means he made a name. He made the name of Hashem. Now, what does that mean, to make the name of Hashem? So it says when you do righteousness, when you do kindness, when you do charity, you are considered to cause Hashem's name to be revealed, because you draw down the letter Yud and the Hey and the Vav. You draw down certain blessing from Hashem. So you sort of build the name of Hashem. You create the name of Hashem. And so Vayas David Shem, through all of the righteousness that he did, if you look in verse 16, where he does mishpat u'tzedakah, he does righteousness to his people. So that's the Vayas David Shem. He made a name. He made Hashem's name revealed, so to speak. And then the verse continues that he earned great renown, returning after winning Aram and the area of Gay Melach, the Valley of Salt, where he had struck down 18,000 troops. And then it says he appointed authorities in Edom. Throughout Edom, he had these tax collectors, to show them that they are subjugated to him. And Hashem caused salvation for David wherever he went. And he administered justice and kindness. And we spoke about a little of justice and kindness, that there was, it's hard to have both. How do you have justice and kindness? But justice where justice is needed, kindness where kindness is needed. Or he did lefnim ashuras hadid. He was able to combine the two by having them use what's called a pshara, compromise. So that's how you could do justice and kindness. You somehow mediate. Yes, what do you want to say, Isaac?
Safaria uses the JPS translation, which is fascinating, because they write he did true justice. That's the way they define Mishpat Tzedek. They just say he executed true justice among all his people. That's okay. That's nice to know that they translate it that way. But the combination makes it true justice. Okay, you're not supposed to go just like this,
right? But there's a deeper type of justice than the surface. So there's different interpretations of what this means. Now, there are stories of David HaMelech that when someone would lose and they didn't have money to pay, so he would then help them out and give them charity. So he judged the case, and then he helped out those that are poor. There's such a story in Avos Reb Nassan in one of the books from the time of the Tanoim, a story about David helping out someone who lost the case, but they were poor. So he felt bad for them, so he helped them. So these are tremendous traits that David had, very special traits that he had, and obviously is what to learn from. And then it ends off that who David had hired, who was people that he that had high positions. So it talks about Yoav ben Sruya. He was the chief in command, officer, chief commander. Yoshaphat, who was the Yoshaphat was the Mazkir, and we mentioned the two translations of what the Mazkir was. He either wrote down the he would Rashi says he would decide he would make an order of who was whose case came first, whose case was next. He had he was in charge of the law case, of the lawsuits, of the court cases. Another explanation is he was like in charge of who lived where. He was in charge of the localities, each where everyone lived and where who's obligated to go to the army, who's not, where who's of age, and so on. And then, of course, the simple meaning is that he was the memuna on the zechronos. That was the chronicler, the person who wrote down the whatever is happening in the kingdom. So you have all three interpretations. And then Sadok and Achimelech, these were the Koyanim, and we mentioned that it doesn't say who was the Kohen Gadol, but the Tzadok came from Elazar, and Achimelech came from Isamar. There were two sons of Aaron that the lineage of kahuna, of priesthood, came out of. Aaron had 4 sons, but 2 of them passed away before they had kids. And the other 2 sons was Elazar and Isamar. Elazar had a descendant, and Isamar had a descendant, Sadok and Achimelech. Now, Evyasar was the Kohen Gadol. Oh, so it's going through all the different names, the important people that were hired under David's leadership, and it mentions Benayahu ben Yehoyada and Kresi Baplesi, which the understanding is that Benayahu ben Yehoyada was in charge of the archers and the those that used slingshots. There was like a special division of the army. And David's sons were, it says Koyanim, but it means they were serving the community. They were experts in like Torah laws and so on. So that's the end of chapter 8. We're going to now start chapter 9. And you have to keep in mind that David wants to pay back kindness to his good old friend Yonasan, who died in war, was killed in war. And he actually had made a treaty with David that David would take care of his family. David would try to look after them and treat them well, so to speak, treat them well. And so this is David's brother-in-law, Yonasan, because David is married to Yonasan's sister, Michal. But keep in mind that there's a lot of pain that came along with this. David's father-in-law tried to kill him numerous times, Shaul. So this is part of Shaul's family, but David has this way of treating those that hurt him. He doesn't want to take revenge at all. Instead, he almost like Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery, and Joseph repaid them with goodness. David seems to have a similar element to that he sort of wants to do good for Shaul's the previous king, even though Shaul tried to kill him numerous times. But David never wanted to hurt Shaul. And here David is going to try to do a favor.
I just found it.
Yeah, where is it?
I just found it in Shmuel Aleph, and it says, "Vaymaled ben Echad leAchimelech ben Achitov."
Achimelech ben Achitov. Okay.
And Shmo Evyatar.
Okay, so that's it. So Evyasar is the I know where it is. It's in chapter 22.
Yeah, at the end of 22.
That's where it is. Okay, very good.
Evyatar.
That's it, Evyasar. So he's really the Kohen Gadol. The reason it doesn't mention him here, the commentaries say, is because he was the Kohen Gadol from way back then.
Yeah,
that's where it is. Okay, good. Thank you, Ben. So right, he was the Kohen Gadol from then. So he didn't do anything new now. So therefore, it doesn't mention him. Nothing changed. It will change later when Evyasar doesn't get his questions answered. That's when it's going to the Urim V'Tumim, the breastplate that was supposed to answer the question that the Kohen Gadol would ask. It's not going to answer it, and that's when David switches the Kohen Gadol to the competing Kohen Gadol Tzadok.
okay.
So that's the story over here. So it would seem like this Evyasar that it mentions in the verse, it says Achimelech ben Evyasar, this must be the son.
That's already the grandson, maybe.
So Ben Echad Achimelech ben Achitov was Evyasar, and Tzadok, it says, was Ben Achitov. It must have had people with similar names, because it seems like there was only one son of Achitov that was alive, and his name was Evyasar. So there must have been a few people with the name Achitov, or maybe there was grandchildren with that name. Anyway, bottom line is that the Kohen Gadol at this point was probably Evyasar. It just doesn't mention it, and yeah, so it seems like he was the Kohen Gadol, and it just doesn't mention it because he was Kohen Gadol from before. Now, so chapter 9, we're going to start verse 1, chapter 9, and here we have the story of David wanting to do a favor for Yonasan and Shaul's family. So David inquires, is there anyone else who has survived the house of Shaul, so that I may deal kindly with him for the sake of Yonasan? So he wants to keep his promise. He promised Yonasan, and he also promised Shaul that he would not destroy his descendants. So there was a dialogue between David and Shaul, even when Shaul wanted to kill him, and David had agreed. He agreed that he wouldn't destroy Shaul's family, and David promised. So now we know that Shaul's sons had been killed. We know that one of them was killed by an assassination. People thought they were going to get buddy up with David by killing Ishbosheth. That was the latest one that was killed. But then the other sons died in war with the Plishtim. So David wants to find out, is there anyone else of the family that's still alive? So he wants to do a favor for the sake of Yonasan. So the verse 2 says the house of Shaul had a servant named Siva. Siva was a servant, an Eved, and they summoned him to David, and the king said to him, "Are you Tziva?" And he said, "I am your servant." The king said, "Is there any man at all left to the house of Shaul?" So here we have David going, bending over backwards, really, to try to find any relatives, because he could have said, "Okay, listen, I looked around, I looked at the phone book, there wasn't anyone. Goodbye." But no, he's searching. So he's interrogating almost. This Siva wants to be sure. So the king says, "Is there anyone so that I may perform godly kindness with him?" So Tziba said to the king, "There remains a son of Yonasan whose legs are crippled." In Hebrew, it's nechei raglayim. Now, we learned a while back that when he was a child, they dropped him, and he ended up being crippled, and that was way back in chapter 4. In chapter 4, it said, Yonasan, the son of Shaul, had a son who was lame. He had been 5 years old when word came from Yisrael about the deaths of Shaul and Yonasan. His nursemaid had picked him up and fled, and in her hurry to flee, she dropped him, and he became lame. His name was Mephibosheth. Now, this Mephibosheth, obviously this is years later, and David wants to know, is anyone left from the house of Shaul? And so she says, yes, there is this son who's lame. Now, she seems to be saying speaking in a derogatory way when she mentions, yeah, this guy is lame, which basically means that she had no interest. Tziva is a man. This is an Eved, he's a servant, and he doesn't want to be he's not happy about being a servant. And he's like, yeah, this, there is someone left to the house of Shaul, and he's nothing. Don't give it. There's no need for you to help him out. Now the king said, where is he? And Tziva said to the king, behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Loidover. So Tziva basically said, he lives in this place, and he's nothing special. King David sent and had him brought from the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, from Loidover, this place. Mephibosheth, the son of Yonasan, the son of Shaul, came before David and fell upon his face and prostrated himself. You have to understand, Mephibosheth is also nervous because he doesn't know how righteous David is and how David is interested in doing a favor to him. Who knows? Maybe David wants to kill him. David might be angry at Shaul. Shaul was after David's life. This might be a good opportunity for David to take revenge. So this is what's going on in Mephibosheth's mind. Yes, Mordechai.
What did I unmute myself?
Yeah, you're
okay. Yes, there's like a parallel between Siva and the Sor Hamashkim, where when Paro was running out of interpretations of his dream, asked, "What is there anybody else?" And the Sor Hamashkim said, "Yes, there is, but but he's
Nar
only
Ivri,
using-
he's an Ivri. He
right.
doesn't even speak our language. Right. He's an Eved. He can't be king. Right. That's interesting. Yeah, very interesting. So, so the story continues that David wants him to be brought before him, and Mephibosheth is brought before him, and he prostrated himself. And David said, "Are you Mephibosheth?" Says, "Behold, I am your servant." And David told him, "Fear not, for I shall surely deal kindly with you for the sake of your father Yonasan. I shall return to you the entire estate of your father Shaul, and you shall eat bread at my table." My table continually. So you have to understand that Mephibosheth here is he's very nervous, and David tells him, "Don't be afraid, because I want to do a favor to your father." And they were the closest of friends. When the Mishnah talks about real friendship, it mentions David and Yonasan. That was a friendship that wasn't dependent on anything. Most friendships, or many friendships, they're dependent. Well, you add this to the you add this benefit and I add that benefit, so we're mutually gaining from our friendship. But David and Yonasan was an ava she'ina tluya b'davar. It was a love that was not dependent on anything. They essentially loved each other, and the pain that David had when Yonasan died was unimaginable. And David now wants to do a favor for Mephibosheth, and he tells him that, "I'm going to let you. You're going to return the entire estate." That really David had taken that estate, because once Ishbosheth, who was rebellious against him, Ishbosheth was the opposing king at the same time, and David did not fight him. But once he was assassinated, David took his possessions. Now David is telling Mephibosheth, "I'm giving them to you." David could have kept them, because when someone rebels against the king, you get their possessions. But here, David said, "I'm giving it to Mephibosheth." Now, Rashi brings down that a king has the right in general to take possessions, and he can give them away. So he was, according to Rashi, he was going to take the possessions and give it to, and give it to Mephibosheth. But in any event, these are the different interpretations exactly what he was, how he was taking, what possessions he was giving him. But he's giving him a property and estate, and he tells him that you can eat bread at my table continually. Now Mephibosheth prostrated himself and said, "What is your servant that you should pay attention to a dead dog like myself? Kelev hames." And that's the term he uses. Yes, Susan.
Where did King David learn to be such a righteous person? How did, this guy sounds like an incredible, ethical, going beyond the letter of the law.
So it could be when he was young, he suffered so much that he learned how to be sensitive to other people, because he suffered very much as a youngster, because his family considered him,
right?
His family considered him an illegitimate child, because they thought that his mother had an affair, and that would make him considered a mamzer. So they initially thought that he was illegitimate.
I see.
And he felt all the pain and suffering as a child, being harassed and bullied, and so that caused him to be very sensitive to other people. Just a thought. that might have had a impact on him to be able to feel for other people that are suffering and try to be sensitive to other people. So verse 9, the king then called Siva and Shaul's attendant and said to him, I have given all that belonged to Shaul and all of his family to your master's son. You shall work the land for him, you and your sons and your servants, and bring in its produce to be bread for the son of your master Mephibosheth to eat, but Mephibosheth, the son of your master Yonasan, shall always eat at my table. So it's not like Mephibosheth needs the food, but this is for his, in general, just for him to make a living. But food he has, he's going to eat at my table. And Siva had 15 sons and 20 servants. And Siva said to the king, according to all that my lord the king commands his servant, so shall your servant do. David repeated, Mephibosheth will be eating at my table like one of the king's sons. And so that is a very impressive act on David's part to have Mephibosheth at his table. Now it mentions who is Mephibosheth's son. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micha, and all of Siva's household were servants to Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth dwelled in Yerushalayim, for he would always eat at the table of the king, and he was lame in both of his legs. So the reason why he moved to Yerushalayim was so that he would be able to accept David HaMelech's offer to eat in the palace, eat with him. Now, it's brought down that Mephibosheth was a huge Torah scholar. And I don't know if you remember, but some of you that have been with me in the morning for many, many months, maybe over a year, we learned a while back that the reason his name was Mephibosheth is because he would cause, Bosheth means embarrassment. He would cause embarrassment to David HaMelech in halacha. That means that he was a huge scholar. And although Siva had claimed he's nothing special, but he really was a huge scholar beyond, above and beyond all the people there, even above and beyond David. And David was humble enough to accept it. Yes, Ezra.
I think the entire line or the entire sentence that you read is a slap in the face to Tziva, because he's saying you considered him or you treated him as if he was basically nothing. And so now I'm putting you under him. You're going to do all these things, and he doesn't need them because he's going to be sitting at my table and eating my food. But you're going to work you and everybody else that of your family is going to take care of his fields. Basically, it's a punishment for the way he acted towards what was a prince of Israel.
Well, it seems like there was an issue here as to, is he considered an Eved or is he considered a Mesharis? And David says, you are a slave and you have been now inherited by the children of your master. And he wanted to consider himself as if he was just a attendant. You know, he had worked for Shaul. And David said, no, you're a slave. And all these possessions are now Mephibosheth's. And you have to now be a slave to him. And and your children are slaves as well. And that's how, that's what it seems that David is telling him, that you have to now work as if you're part of his possessions, because you are considered legally a eved. That's my understanding. I don't see. Yeah.
From the way that he responded, he says, Ayutziva, he says, Abdecha. Okay, your servant. All right. So I mean, he's already saying that I am, however you want to translate, whether it's an eved or whether it's a servant. But the fact of the matter is that since he belonged to the house of Shaul, he's telling him right now that you will do the job that you didn't think you would have to do, and that is to provide or work the fields of your master. But even so, it's not as if he's going to depend upon you for the food, because he's going to be at my table all the time. So whatever you do, okay, don't consider it as if you've done something for him, because you in the sense of you're not giving him food because he really doesn't need it, since he's going to be at my table.
Right, I hear what you're saying. The only thing is that he also has he's invited to the king's table, but he does have a son, this Micha, and might have a wife. He might, and it would seem that the other people in his household do need to have sustenance. So he can't be saying, all your work is worthless, but I still need you. I still want you to do it. You know what I mean? It's not.
Why
because you see that he does need it. His son, what is Micha? Where's Micha eating from? He's eating at the king's table. Where's Micha eating from?
The fact that he relates it and he speaks specifically about Mephibosheth, okay, is basically saying to him specifically that he doesn't need it, but you're still going to work for him.
It's going to be his inheritance.
It could be emphasizing that don't think that you just need to make enough, plant enough to provide some food for him. He doesn't even need my food. You're hired to actually make a flourishing business. That's what you're hired for. You're not hired to provide him for some food. He doesn't need your food. This is serious work involved. You need to hire workers, your children. This is a very serious investment, and that's what it's for. Yeah. So that's what it's for. So that's the that's what it seems like. Again, there must be numerous commentators as well that maybe you'll find something, but that's on a simple level. I think that's what the interpretation is.
I'm sure it's a big property, so it's going to take a lot of people to work it.
Yes, for sure. You have to understand, he's getting the properties of the king, so
Nice.
there must have been a lot. Okay, so now we're up to chapter 10. And chapter 10, it happened after this that the king of the children of Ammon died. The king of the people of Ammon died, and his son Hanun reigned after. David thought, I shall do an act of kindness for Hanun, the son of Nachash, just as his father acted with kindness for me. What does this refer to? David left his family with the people of Moab when David was running away from Shaul. So what did he do with his parents, his siblings, he put them in a safe place. They had committed, they had agreed, the people of Moab, the king of Moab agreed to let him have a safe place of safety, a safe haven in the country of Moab. Right after David left, the king of Moab says, you know what? Let's just kill these people. And they killed David's parents, David's siblings. Now, David didn't know about it till later, of course. And we did see just in the previous 2 chapters ago where David fights Moab. And one of the reasons he's fighting them is he's taking revenge for what they did to his parents and his siblings. Now, one of his brothers managed to escape. And where did he escape to? He escaped to Ammon. Because he escaped to Ammon, therefore, David felt he wanted to do a favor to Ammon because they let him escape there and they didn't tell the Moabite king that we have a guy you want and we'll sell him to you for $1 million, and just hand over the money and we'll hand him over to you. They didn't do that. They kept it a secret and they saved him. They gave him a safe place. Because of that, David felt obligated to do some kindness, and therefore David said, "You know what? Let me give him my condolences after his father died." So he goes to Hanun, and I shall do an act of kindness for Hanun, the son of Nachash, just as his father did, acted kindness with me, acted with kindness for me. So David sent a message to him by the hand of his servants to console him over his father. And David's servants arrived in the land of the children of Ammon. Now the ministers of the children of Ammon said to their master Hanun, "Do you think that David has sent consolers to you to honor your father? Is it not in order to explore the city? Is that why he's coming? He wants to check out the city. And while he's walking to the palace, what is he doing? He's snapping pictures. He's taking videos. He's looking, checking things out. He's seeing how everything is situated over here, because he's planning probably on fighting us. So don't you think it's in order to explore the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it, that David has sent his servants to you? That's what's going on over here. So Hanun took David's servants and shaved off half of their beards and cut their garments in half until their buttocks and sent them away. So he basically humiliated them. Now, this is a very strong source for a Jew to grow a beard. Why? Because it says over here, he humiliated them by cutting off half of their beard. Now, if people shaved in those days, no big deal. Just cut off the other half, right? And you're all set. You look fine. You look well groomed, as they would say. But you see, they didn't do that. What did they do? So they sent word to David, and he sent messengers to them, for the men were deeply humiliated. And the king said, "Stay in Jericho until your beards grow back and then return." So David gave them advice that they shouldn't feel so embarrassed, that they should just wait till it grows back. Cut off your beard. Okay, so it'll take a few weeks, a few months, whatever, and grow back, look somewhat normal, then you'll be all set. So he told them to stay in Jericho. I guess Jericho was not, there was a curse to Jericho that they're not gonna, can't build it up. And so this is from the book of Joshua. So basically, they would stay there until their beards grew back.
Who fixed their pants?
Seems like he probably sent them a new shipment to pants. He could send a shipment of, but the beard is a problem. Now the children of Ammon realized that they had become repugnant to David. So the children of Ammon sent and hired from Aram of Beis Rechoiv and Aram of Tzaiva 20,000 footmen, and from the king of Maacha 1,000 men, and from Ishtoib 12,000 men. David heard, and he dispatched Yoav and all the mighty men of the army. So what happened here is that Ammon is nervous. He realized that David's angry. So he decides, let me start the war first. Now, he's the one who's at fault in the first place, because what did he do? He trusted his servants that they had some ulterior motive. And so he messed things up in the first place by cutting off half their beards and cutting their pants and humiliating them. And now he's going to have to do, so one wrong often leads to another. You really see that. And it's almost like when a person lies, they have to lie a second time because otherwise they'll get caught. You have to continuously lie. You also have to remember all the lies you said. See, if you don't never lie, then you don't have to have such a good memory. But a person who lies, they always have to remember what they told this person. And the same thing is here. Avera gereres avera, like one thing leads to another. So here, that now he's starting to fight a war. Makes a whole war because he messed up earlier, and he's hiring soldiers. And David heard and he dispatched Yoav, and the children of Ammon came out and waged war at the opening of the gateway, while Aram of Tzaiva and Rechov and Ishtov and Maacha were in the field by themselves. So Yoav saw that the battlefield faced him from the front and from the rear. So he selected from among all the chosen ones of Israel and deployed against Aram. He placed the rest of the people in the hand of his brother Avishai, and he deployed against the children of Ammon. He said, if Aram will overpower me, then you will be my salvation. In other words, you'll help me out. And if the children of Ammon will overpower you, I will go and save you. Be strong, and let us both be strong for the sake of our people and for the sake of the cities of our God, and Hashem will do what is good in his eyes. So Yoav realizes he's got a big problem here, because it's one thing to fight a war against an enemy, but here he's got thousands of soldiers from outside that are hired from the outside, and he's quite nervous. Now, David doesn't want to fight in this war because David realized that he did the wrong thing. Ammon was a country that we're not supposed to make peace with. And David brought him, went to console him, arranged for his officers to console him, and so to speak, they were showing some type of friendship. And Ammon is not a country that we're supposed to show this type of friendship with. And so because of that, it ended in that humiliating humiliating end. It was based on the fact that David had mistakenly done the wrong thing. So here, David is now nervous to be involved in the war because he feels like if he's in the war, there'll be like a claim against him, and it could cause them to lose. In other words, he'll bring bad merit, cause like punishment to affect the army. So David wants to stay away from the war, and so Yoav is fighting the war because David feels it's his fault that he made this mistake. So he's figured if he stays away, there's it won't cause there to be any negative element in the war that the Satan will use against them and say, they don't deserve to win. So Yoav placed the rest of the people in the hand of his brother Avishai, and he deployed against the children of Ammon. And he said, if Aram will overpower me, then you will be my salvation. If the children of Ammon will overpower you, I will go to save you. Be strong, and let us both be strong, for the sake of our people, for the sake of the cities of our God, and Hashem will do what is good in his eyes. And then Yoav, as well as the people who were with him, approached to do battle against Aram, and they fled from him. In other words, they were afraid, they were shocked, they were awed. When the children of Ammon saw that Aram had fled, they also fled from Avishai and entered the city. And Yoav then turned back from the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem. So they won the war. They won the war because there were two armies here, and once the stronger army ran away, so the weaker army got nervous and they also ran away. Aram saw that they were beaten by Israel, and they banded together. Hadarezer sent and brought over Aram from the other side of the Euphrates River, and they came with their armies, and Shoivach, the commander of Hadarezer's army, leading them. Now this was told to David, and he gathered together all of Israel. Now at this point, David is no problem to fight because there's no Ammonites here now. When it was a fight between him and Ammon, he was nervous to get involved because he felt he did a sin that might cause some negative impact. But here, there was no Ammonites here. So David says, now I can get involved. So this was told to David. He gathered together all of Israel and crossed the Jordan and came to a place called Chelama, or Chelam. And Aram deployed against David and fought him. Aram fled before Israel. David slew of Aram 700 charioteers and 40,000 horsemen. And he struck the commander, Shovach, who was supposed to be this master commander of the army, and he died there. And when all the kings, the subjects of Hadarezer, saw that they were defeated by Israel, they made peace with Israel, became subservient to them. Aram became afraid to save the children of Ammon any longer. So that was basically quite a success. Now, what is interesting is after this war, Hanun, the king of Ammon, ends up converting to Judaism. He ends up leaving and he converts to become Jewish. Okay, well,